Hey, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm, and we're going to be talking about an exciting subject today, composting. Specifically, this stuff that you've heard me talk about in numerous videos right now. I'm standing on essentially 2 feet worth of some of it. A lot of it was left here before we got here. It was mostly cow manure. But since that time, we've had sheep in here, we've had pigs in here, we've had chickens in here. So we've got basically a whole ecosystem worth of poop right here in this spot that we're going to turn it into something awesome. So we've taken this animal bedding, which consists of straw, there's wood chips, there's hay, there's probably some other carbon sources in here also. I've seen them in here. Some weird looking cardboard, I don't even know, but guess what? It could all be composted. But what we've done with it thus far is we've taken this and we've dressed it around the trees. Perfect. We've produced some magnificent trees in the past just by doing that alone with animal bedding. So moments ago, right before we started filming this video, we've used it in the garden. We've taken this stuff and used it as mulch in our raised beds. And it will eventually, over time, turn its way into soil. Now we're going to do something called the Berkeley method of composting. Okay, it's going to take 18 days from the time we assemble it until the time it's ready to use. 18 days. So it's going to consist of what I'm standing on right now, which is your brown, and there's some green in here also, mixed with a combination of, we got a bunch of grass that we needed cut, and we're going to make a pile out of it. And we're going to show you how to do it. Now, this video is going to be nothing more than showing you how to assemble a pile. And William's going to handle that. He's actually, when it comes to our homestead here, he is the resident expert, and I'm his apprentice in more ways than one, honestly. So, since he's the resident expert, he's really taking lead on this in a big way, and he's going to make some really awesome compost like he did before. Now, this first video consists entirely of how to put this thing together. It's going to take at least 18 days for it to unfold, and so we're going to give you piece by piece how that process unfolds over the 18 days, and then we're going to talk about what we have. With that said, it's time to get to work.
Alright, so here we are harvesting the green part of our 18-day compost. And the compost consists of green, brown, and manure. And the green part is just really anything that's green. And you want it to be as diverse as you can. So here we're getting grass and weeds. And now we're harvesting our brown and manure all in one, in the form of animal bedding. So there's a bunch of different animals' manure in there, and then there's the carbon bedding that they pooped on. And now we're assembling the cage to give the compost pile structure, and so we can get the size correct. And Dad's watering the ground, and our first layer is going to be the brown. You want that to be on the very bottom and also on the very top. So you want a carbon bottom and a carbon cap. So you just keep layering in the different components until you get all the way to the top. It needs to be at least a cubic meter for there to be enough room for the microbes to build a sustainable community, I guess. And we're also throwing in biochar, and I think this is the fastest way to actually activate biochar. All the other methods that I've seen took at the least 2 months. This should take only 18 days, and all we're doing with the biochar is inoculating it with microbes. And you want to add as much water as you can at the beginning. You want to try to get all the water that it needs done at the beginning. And it should be wet enough so if you take 2 handfuls and squeeze them together, you should get just 1 drop. And we had to add a bunch of water to this because the animal bedding was so dry, it was almost hydrophobic. And when you're layering this, you're putting roughly equal amounts of green, brown, and manure. And you want your end carbon to ratio, or nitrogen to carbon ratio, to be around 25 or 30 to 1. The harder carbons like sawdust or wood chips, they're going to be around 500 to 1. So you want to keep that in mind whenever you're building your compost pile. Whereas the grass and the weeds and all that, that's already closer to 25 and 30 to 1. And then the manure also has a higher nitrogen content. So we're just putting our carbon cap on there, and then after we're done, we're gonna put a tarp on it, and then it's good to go. And then in 4 days, we'll do our first flip.
Okay, well, looky here. We got us a compost pile ready to rock. If, you know, anybody driving by, well, if they're driving by here, they shouldn't be here. But anyway, if anybody were driving by, it would look like something of a hay bale or what's left of one. So here it is. We got it all tied up, ready to go. We got our tarp on it. But we discovered something of a problem in that, and if we didn't arrest it pretty quick, it would have gotten out of hand. That being is that we're on something, although you probably can't tell in this video, we're on something of an incline. And as it became taller, it became very, you know, it was pointed out to us in a massive way. So what was required was we ran a couple of straps around this thing. And had we not done it, I'm pretty sure this thing would be laying on its side looking like a giant, you know, big rig tire. Anyway, we got a couple of straps wrapped around it, anchored off of 2 different trees over here. The idea being, obviously, that we want to try to keep this thing intact, and it's working quite well. So, at this point, it's a waiting game. It ain't much long. It's going to be 4 days from the time we assembled it to the first flip. At this point, this is how you put it together. In a video down the road, it's going to take a few days for this to unfold, but in a video down the road, we're going to show you the entire process of how to make this happen. So, that'll be a video that unfolds, like I said, over a period of time. So, with that said, this is Billy, the Permaculture Pimp Daddy from Perma Pastures Farm. We'll see you next time.